Hello friends and welcome to Gamereactor Live. On this wonderful Friday we will, as we always do, be rounding up the biggest headlines from the world of gaming that happened this week. As always, I'll be joined by Bengt and Dóri, editor from Gamereactor EU. Wave hello. And
hello.
Then after an hour's talk about what happened, I'll be moving on to the PS4 and I'll be playing Destiny with, I think Mike from Gamereactor EU will join me, as well as some dedicated users. Now, but first, the news. Let's do this.
Yes, so it's been a exciting week in news, as always, but we're closing in towards E3 now, so quite a lot of news items coming up, and of course announcements, etc., etc. But this week has been really dominated by Ubisoft because they've had their financial report and they unveiled the new Assassin's Creed and a lot more things. So
yes,
I think we're going to spend.
I'm just gonna pimp a little bit here, of course, because we had a stream for the announcement of the of Assassin's Creed. So if you missed that, go check the replay and all the information you would need on the Assassin's Creed right there. Syndicate.
Yeah. First it's an hour of speculation,
yes.
Then it's the reveal, and then it's actual factual.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because we had of course a reporter that went over to Quebec and played the, didn't play the game, but saw the game played there and had all the information and had written a preview, but we couldn't say anything about that until at 6 o'clock.
So it was an hour of biting your tongue, and then but you know, not that it wasn't interesting. There was you had the Assassin's Creed community challenge winner there, and you talked about the league and things like that. So a little bit of speculation, a little bit of talk about what you want to see in the Assassin's Creed franchise moving forward as well. So that's certainly interesting. But yeah, well, let's start on that. Assassin's Creed Syndicate was announced this week. It is pretty much what was leaked late last year under the title Assassin's Creed Victory at that point, but it's set in during the Industrial Revolution in London.
It starts in the year 1968, I think.
1868.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, it's a extremely ripe age for a game, as we've seen with many games that are set in this sort of era. Most of them perhaps steampunk, but you know, the Victorian era is such a great time period because a lot of things changed during this age, and a lot of things, you know, it's sort of the dawn of the modern age, if you will, where you get a lot of the things that we're sort of accustomed to today. And this also means that it's going to be a very different Assassin's Creed compared to the sort of more medieval entries that have been in the past. So interesting to see just how different that'll be. Of course, we've only seen a glimpse of it, but you know, there's going to be some new different elements in there, I'm sure.
I mean, we have the grappling hook, for example.
Yep.
That's also a. It's not just to traverse upwards. You can also, you know, slide between buildings on it and stuff like that. So
a little bit more dynamic than what was been the case in other Assassin's Creeds, where usually you'll be able to slide like that in many places, but only if there's something to slide on.
Yeah, in fixed locations, not something you set up yourself.
So that's going to be very interesting to see how the sort of the city supports that, and just how much freedom you will be able to traverse with. But you know, a lot of different things. Another thing that's of note is, of course, that there's two main characters this time around. There's a pair of twins, Jacob and Evie Fry. And you have to sort of think here, is this something that, because there was a lot of noise made last year when you couldn't tailor yourself a female assassin, of course, in Unity, and there was a lot of noise about that, especially since you were able to custom create your own character to a certain degree. So maybe this is sort of catering to those who felt that was something that was missing out of the last one. I don't know. Either way, it's interesting. You're going to be able to choose freely which one you're going to play as, except for certain sort of story missions where you'll be locked into one or the other. But as you free roam, etc., you'll be able to choose for yourself. Interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see just how what that means for the narrative of the game as well. But yeah,
I
nice to
just
see
hope
it.
that doesn't mean that you can free roam as the female character as much as you want, but as soon as you trigger a story mission, bam, you're the dude.
I mean, if they want to use the fact that there are two characters in the narrative, then they have to switch it up between the two in the main story missions as well. But we don't know yet, so it's hard to tell. But let's be hopeful that it actually is not just an afterthought.
Yeah, I mean,
like
hopefully
that, like
it might be something similar to what they did with GTA 5 as well.
It might be, although I suspect it's not going to be, since it's only two, and I think that they're going to sort of be together for most of it. Maybe it's not going to be that ambitious as GTA 5, which was a three-threaded narrative that was pretty much unprecedented, I think. But yeah, nevertheless, it's a new studio that's on this, or we shouldn't say new. They've been involved with the Assassin's Creed franchise for quite some time, but now they are in charge of their first game themselves, Ubisoft Quebec. Of course, a lot of veterans from the Assassin's Creed franchise are on the team, but it's going to be interesting to see what this means, and also maybe it's good for Ubisoft Montreal to be getting sort of a year break from the franchise to do the next big one in 2016. I think so, certainly. Even though, of course, there's always going to be people from Ubisoft Montreal sort of supervising anything that has to do with Assassin's Creed. So, yeah. The next thing I wanted to mention about this is the fact that unlike Unity, which had co-op but no multiplayer, Assassin's Creed Syndicate will have no multiplayer whatsoever and no app, and no companion app, which was something that we saw in pretty much every Ubisoft title since the start of this generation. We've seen companion apps for pretty much everything.
But also, it doesn't have any co-op at all, right? No.
Nope.
So no multiplayer, no co-op, no plug-in app, just single player and your experience.
Yeah. So I think that is. I don't know if it's in response to people not being too happy about the implementation of the app for Unity, or if it's something that is sort of more of something that has come natural with this game. But I think this is pretty much a reaction to. What do you think? Do you think it's a reaction, or do you think it's something that they actually planned?
I think after the launch of Unity, they may have gotten a slight wake-up call about they just had too many moving parts going on at the same time. I mean, they are, pardon the expression, churning out the games, one a year. And then they also have, multiple platforms. They're trying to integrate, network connectivity into it, and then also connecting iOS. I mean, I'm sure it's a logistical nightmare. And then, it didn't pan out the last time around. So maybe let's try to scale it back a bit and bring it back in force for the next one.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things like, I mean, clearly, this sort of app and things it's not really conflicting with anything, I have to say. Like it's probably totally different people doing it, and whether it works or not, it's really not up to the main team. But nonetheless, I'm sure that, if something is wrong, then, people are sort of pointing fingers at things they don't like in general about it, and then, which would be the app and perhaps the multiplayer not functioning. So maybe that's also the case. And I think something that was pretty nice about seeing this demonstration, and I don't know what your impression was, but it didn't seem like they sort of pushed the amount of NPCs or pushed anything in the visuals. too far, too extreme, like they usually do when they announce a new game in the series, and then they have to scale it back. So perhaps we actually got pretty much an honest look at what the game may look like when it launches.
Yeah, at
What do you
least we
think?
got an honest look at what it looks like right now. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say that a lot of the textures look kinda not done. I mean, but then again, it is pre-alpha footage, and it's refreshing to see them showing off actual pre-alpha footage, which is pre-alpha and not, you know, some brushed up CGI trailer as an announcement. You know, and we got a lengthy playthrough. And talking to our journalists that actually went to Quebec, they basically played the same thing, but it was longer and they focused on different things and showed a little bit more. So this isn't a scripted playthrough per se, you know what I mean? Because they have it playable, we know that, because they showed off different to journalists. So yeah, I mean, you can see in some of the reflections and stuff like that that I mean, there is going to be some really nice graphics there, but yeah, it doesn't seem polished, and it shouldn't be because it is pre-alpha.
No, and maybe that's also one of the things they learned with Unity, because I think they were so keen to show off like we can do all of this now, that they perhaps took on a little bit more than they could handle, and it wasn't just a case of little tweaks, because we can see now that it's not really come together completely even now with a lot of patches and things. So they bit off more than they could chew with Unity, and maybe this is sort of a reaction to that they're doing. They're more conscious of what they can actually pull off in the end, and hopefully that will be to the benefit of the players.
Yeah, but yeah, that's
no doubt.
12 minutes on Unity. No, on Assassin's Creed. I mean,
on Syndicate. Yeah. So maybe we should move right along. But I should say as well that, you know, they do have an little bit of an uphill struggle because of Unity. You could see that in the reactions. They were a little bit more negative than I thought, and you know, Ubisoft have to sort of convince the fans that they've turned a corner and that this game is sort of going to bring back Assassin's Creed to where it needs to be, it belongs. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they tackled that. Yeah. So my next story, also Ubisoft's story, and it broke right at the time of their financial report. Not a huge surprise if you've been following this game. The Division is now officially a 2016 title. It's been scheduled for the first quarter of 2016, so it's still in Ubisoft's 2016 fiscal year that ends March 31st. And the decision was made because let's see here if we can find the.
I mean, I'm not surprised by this at all, especially considering, what was it, a week or two ago that they announced another studio was helping with the development. So it's
NEC is
so it's
out
4 studios now,
bits,
including, of course, Massive. Yeah.
Yes, it's Massive, and then Reflections, Red Storm, and NEC is helping out. I think Reflection is probably the biggest help with this game. Red Storm was doing some work with weapons and stuff, and NEC is sort of doing a few extra bits and bobs about the multiplayer and a few other things. But yeah, what it says is they want to ensure the game not only meets our high expectations, but also those of our fans and players alike. So it's a nice little PR phrase there. Basically, they need some more time.
I mean, it's basically PR speak for we decided not to rush it, which is always nice.
Yes, hopefully. I mean, there is that we decided not to rush it, but it's also like we were kind of optimistic from the beginning, and this is really what what needed to be there. Of course, the Division was first sort of, and that as far as we could tell, like hearing between the lines, that 2014 date that was originally stated by Ubisoft was just not realistic at any point in time, and they should not have said 2014 for the Division.
But it was pretty sneaky of them to kind of sneak that announcement out at the same time that they're announcing the new Assassin's Creed.
Well, I mean, it is the kind of announcement that you do when you have financial reports, so it sort of makes sense. And they did Assassin's Creed at the same time as well, but it didn't get the attention it would have gotten if they announced it a day earlier or a day later. Then it would have been the big news. But now it's sort of like, yeah, okay, it's not coming out there. But like I said, it's an ambitious game, and I hope that the team at all four studios is given the time they need to sort of realize it as it's envisioned, because we want to play that game.
Yeah, as it looks
And
in the gameplay that we're watching right now.
yes, yes. But we'll have to wait and see on that. I'm sure they're gonna go pretty big at E3. I'm sure they have something new playable there, so it's gonna be interesting to see where it's at the moment, and just how it's going. It's a very interesting project that will continue to follow closely, I should say. And speaking of those kind of things, Rainbow Six Siege was not delayed. Instead, it's been given a firm release date now.
There was
October
actually
13th.
there were a couple of media that reported that Rainbow Six Siege had also been delayed, but that was I think because of the whole fiscal year thing. It's always confusing.
Very funny. Yes. Well, it's not really that difficult, but it's always funny to sort of see the discussion we have on our Skype threads whenever there's the fiscal year shift, if you will, because there's always a little bit of an uncertainty as to what things mean. Of course, the fiscal year typically, and this is true for all the big companies in the gaming industry at least, starts on April 1st, and the year is named after the year that the fiscal year ends in. So fiscal year 2016 is what we're in right now. We're in the first quarter of fiscal year 2016, and that will end March 31st. So if it's Q4 fiscal 2016, that means that it's Q1 2016 on the calendar year, which is what the division is now slated for. And Rainbow Six stays put in quarter 3 for Ubisoft's fiscal 2016. But now we got the firm date, and that's October 13th. PC, PS4, Xbox One. I know you played the alpha, right?
I'm actually. I don't know if I'm more or less excited for the game after playing the alpha, because it was a pretty rough alpha. There was no matchmaking or anything like that. So me and Mike from Gamereactor UK were trying to match up and play together. It wasn't possible because it was just
wasn't meant to be.
You just drop into a random match. But I really enjoyed what I played. I didn't get a lot of game time in it, but the tactic, when you were paired with a team that was willing to look into the tactics and not just try to tank it, because that also happened, and then it's like, okay, it's over like that.
Yes. Did you have a chance to look through they've posted a very detailed blog post about the changes that have been made since the alpha based on feedback?
No, I saw that they also put up a video on their official YouTube channel with alpha, a breakdown where they break down the alpha and what they're changing and stuff like that. I haven't had the chance to look at it yet, unfortunately.
So I thought we have the news also that Ubisoft expect to sell 7 million copies of Rainbow Six Siege, which is ridiculously high expectations in my opinion, because the franchise typically sells a couple of million, maybe 3 million copies. But the thought that gone into that is that it's a multiplayer focused title and that it'll continue to sell over a long period of time. We'll have to wait and see on that, but obviously Ubisoft have huge expectations for this game. But if we go through some of the things that they've changed up here.
I'm picking it up here. First off, hit markers removed except for friendly fire and kill confirmation. Okay, that's a minor thing, but yeah.
Yeah. Game pacing, base operator movement speed reduced by 20%, implementing armor system, light, medium, heavy, with mobility versus armor trade-offs, implementing equipment and weapon weight costs to movement, currently experimenting with increased round times to slow down play. So this is basically, they want to slow things down a little bit and also create incentives, sort of, if you play slow, you'll have an advantage in terms of armor, for instance. Is this something that struck you about the game, that it was a little bit too high pace?
I mean, it tended to be because, like I said, when you
Yeah.
got paired with a team that just wanted to tank it, especially because at the start of the round, when you're the SWAT team, you start with the drones, and you can drive the drones and try to locate where they're keeping the hostage out of 4 or 5 locations within the map that they can't be doing that, where they're building up fortifications and stuff. So you can drive in the drone and you can find the hostage. And I actually found a nifty little exploit, because if they shoot the drone, then you won't be able to switch to the drone during the actual round. So you drive the drone around, and then in the preamble before it starts, while the hostage takers are building their reinforcements and reinforcing their stuff.
Yeah.
So if wherever your drone ends up at the end of that, you can switch to that during the match and kind of look around. So what I did a couple of times, I found the hostage, and then if the drone gets shot, then you can't look at it. So I drove the drone right underneath the hostage, so he was just kind of sitting on it, because I could still kind of see through him, but they couldn't shoot the drone. So then during the match, I could just look into it, see where everybody was within the room, and tell my team, which kind of felt a little bit like cheating, but I haven't.
But it felt good as well.
Oh yeah.
All right. Should we go through everything here?
Real quickly, they're adding more recoil. I like that. I felt it was a bit too much, just pinpoint.
This is something for PC specifically, I think. Yeah.
Because it was very easy to minimize the recoil and just empty a clip right into the same area.
Audio.
Yeah, ammo count.
It was placeholder, and it's gonna be blah blah blah. So that's gonna be improved on. Ammo count has been reduced across the board. Will be equivalent to Raven Shield
values. Here's the most important part: party system and push to talk. So we will get a party system, and we'll get push to talk, because they didn't have push to talk, so everybody's microphone was live the entire time. That was super annoying.
Yeah. And there's a ton of things that they're tweaking.
Yeah,
and
I recommend
here,
people actually just go into their official website and read through it, or maybe watch the YouTube video, because, like they said, it's a detailed blog post, and we don't have time to go through all of it now.
And we should say that this is the beauty of doing an alpha this early. They do have the chance to actually change a lot of things and improve on a lot of things, and you shouldn't judge the game based on an alpha.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's the thing. I saw a couple of reviews based on the alpha, and I was like, what are you doing? This is just to get a little taste.
I mean, but that is also like, in some ways, the industry has itself to blame for that, because a lot of betas are basically just for promotion and are sort of polished and finished products that they're put out there, maybe to test the servers, but certainly not to sort of test gameplay things, and people get the same game when it launches. But this case, it was a very early alpha and way out from release, so you shouldn't think of it as
and they didn't have all of the operators, and they didn't have all the maps, etc., etc., etc. I'm being asked here in the chat exactly how the matches go down. The matches that were in the alpha work so that there are 2 teams. Of course, there's SWAT, and then there's the hostage takers. The hostage takers, they build up reinforcements and try to protect their hostage. The round ends when either everybody on one team is dead, when the SWAT team has saved the hostage, or the time runs out. If the time runs out, then the hostage takers win.
Yeah. So it's is it called siege mode, or what's it called? Yeah. So that's like the
base game.
The base game, the sort of the mode that sort of is the main one. I'm sure they're gonna have different ones. Hopefully they'll stay away from sort of the usual trappings like death matches and things like that, and just focus on objective-based, team-based stuff, because I think
they really have something here with
else.
the whole SWAT focus. So their game mode should be focused on it. But let's move on to the next one here.
Yes. So I think we're done with all the Ubisoft stuff, or are we? No, we do. We have one more story.
One real quick one.
And that's the fact that Ubisoft have now said that they're not going to do any more games for PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360, and unless, of course, you count Just Dance, which is going to be released on those platforms, and then maybe one or two digital things. I'm not sure that that's included, but what they're talking about is their big franchises.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're focusing on the AAA titles, smaller like faux indie titles coming from the UPR framework, for example. They'll probably hit all platforms.
Yeah, and if there's a new Rayman, I'm sure it could come out on those platforms as well, and perhaps even Wii U and other system. But for their big core franchises, they're focusing on PC, PS4, and Xbox One from now on. And
good.
Yeah, pretty much makes sense, because if you look at their sales, you know, Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4 mainly on the new gen and PC. Assassin's Creed last year, Rogue pretty much didn't do a ton at all, and you know, it's just that time now. It's already, we've had that sort of period where we have had games being on both generations. Now it's time to move on, and I think that there's not going to be a ton of very interesting titles on PS3, Xbox 360 moving forward from anywhere.
Yeah.
Apart from some digital stuff, of course, and maybe some broader appeal things like Call of Duty and FIFA and that sort of thing. But that is probably where we're at now in this generation. So yes, yep. And the next couple of stories here is actually something that that is a little bit interesting, because I like to bunch them together, because I think there's been sort of a resurgence in Kickstarter as of late, and a few more interesting projects, few bigger things have come out, and of course this week we saw the start of the Bloodstained Ritual of the Night campaign on Kickstarter from Koji Iga, who's a long-time Castlevania producer who's left Konami, and
another producer
left
that
Konami.
leaves Konami.
Yes. Well, I mean, he left a while ago, but
adding to the hyperbole.
Clearly, you know, there's a narrative out there on the internet about Konami doing sort of abandoning their core values and just trying to make money on mobile and whatnot.
Yeah, I actually watched a detailed breakdown of, well, a rumor or a speculation, I guess, that they're going to be focusing on gambling, because the Japanese lawmakers are trying to legalize gambling in Japan again. And Konami, I mean, has a vast stake in that area. And I mean, that eclipses their gaming output. So yeah,
and it's just for longtime fans, it's just shocking, because you know, it's not that long ago that Konami was one of the strongest Japanese publishers who put out a lot of games, and especially during the PS2 era, they were, you know, prolific and a lot of great games. So it is a little bit shocking, but nevertheless, it's good to see that regardless of what Konami does with Castlevania, the sort of the spirit lives on, and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is pretty much a spiritual successor to Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And of course, it was immediately successful on Kickstarter, surpassed its 500,000 target within, you know, I think it's within hours of launching, and right now it sits at $2 million, and coming out on PC, PS4, Xbox One. And an interesting note is that it's actually the first Kickstarter where you're able as a backer reward to get physical copies for Xbox One and PlayStation 4 for your pledge, which is very interesting. The campaign is also being helped by Two Player Production and Fangamer, Of course, they've helped out with things like Double Fine Adventure, and then Fangamers also helped with Mighty Number 9. So certainly, like they have a lot of power behind this campaign, and they also have what Iga said is that the campaign is not to fund the entire game. They wanted to use the campaign to gauge interest, so they have other financiers lined up, but they needed to see that there's interest, and of course, yes, there is interest. So nice to see, and it's gonna be interesting to see where this ends up, and yeah. So that is one of the new Kickstarters that sort of revitalized video games on Kickstarter. The second one, or perhaps first one, because it launched earlier than that, is a game called Yooka-Laylee, or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it, but spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie from Playtonic Games. Bunch of former Rare talent that it's taken to Kickstarter, and of course, famously, the campaign was funded. The initial 175,000 pound target was reached in just 40 minutes. $1 million was reached in 5 hours, 41 minutes, which is actually the fastest video game campaign to do so. I don't know, maybe Bloodstain beat that. I'm not sure, but it was anyway among the best, and it's also now the best ever UK Kickstarter, beating Elite Dangerous. And with a month to go, it is sitting at, let's see where it's at. I think it's sitting at something like 1.6 million pounds or something, and they've got some stretch goals going as well. But certainly a little bit of a shock that something like that, a platformer would do so well on Kickstarter. But I guess it's the fact that there are very, very few 3D platformer games out there currently that help this campaign be so successful. But yeah, we have more. There are more big Kickstarters coming up. There are some others that are interesting as well right now going on. So it feels like it's a little bit of a revival going. Of course, we got Bard's Tale 4 from In Exile coming up fairly shortly, I think. They haven't set a date yet, but that is coming up as well. So quite a few big ones launching, and yeah, maybe we were too quick to pronounce the death of Kickstarter as a video game funding platform.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lull there for a moment, but I think enough projects then delivered, and now bigger names are bringing out. It used to be like, okay, here are old franchises that we're bringing back, but now it's, you know, the people behind big franchises bringing a new franchise.
Yeah. I actually had a talk with Brian Fargo from In Exile the other day for something that's still under embargo, but he had an interesting note, and he just said that like last year maybe there weren't that many interesting campaigns, and that is of course something that you have to take into consideration, that you know this is a sort of a hit-driven platform. Like if there aren't a lot of huge big hits being proposed on Kickstarter, then you're not going to see as much money going there. But if there are a lot of big ones, and of course things change. So maybe it's as simple as that. You know, if there are interesting campaigns, then a lot of money will shift hands over Kickstarter.
I'm wondering, maybe, do we have time? Yeah, we should have time. Question here in the chat. So do you know if someone else will take up the development of Silent Hills, or is that franchise lost forever? Well, it's not a franchise yet, per se, but basically...
Well, the Silent Hill franchise.
But Silent Hills, was it supposed to be in the Silent Hill franchise, or was it like a revised? Or,
yes.
Okay. I never quite got
it's part of the franchise,
you know,
but
exactly what it was.
But it's pretty much a reboot. But you know, this is the thing. Like personally, I don't even think that development actually started on Silent Hills.
No.
I don't think there was a game. I think there was this teaser.
Yeah,
and I think that
it
was
had this really nice playable demo, but
yes,
if you actually kind of look at it, it wasn't that big. at all.
No. And it was a teaser, but you have to think that Kojima Productions were fully focused on Phantom Pain. I don't think there was much work being done, like the year between the teaser and now, or less than a year. I don't think there's been much work done on Silent Hill. So sure, we were promised something, but I don't think there's a game that anyone can continue to work on or sort of there's really nothing to be saved there other than the concept of PT, which I'm 100% sure that some developers will pick up on that and give us something similar, because of course there's a lot of hype about that. So there's a it's a good idea, and maybe someone will pick up on it and do a game around the same concept. Maybe even people who worked at Kojima Productions. Who knows? But as far as the franchise goes, Konami still owns the franchise, and while there's a lot of talk about them doing the gambling stuff and the casino stuff, they're not going to abandon their franchises. Speculation is that they may actually, give them out on license to other developers or publishers to work on them, and then just take off a 10% or 20% or whatever of it. There's that speculation. I think that Silent Hill is probably not as ripe for that as, say, Metal Gear Solid. But I don't think that there's any plans to sort of never do a Silent Hill again, and that this was the last chance or whatever. That's not gonna. I mean, we're gonna see more Silent Hills. Question is from who and when. This was a sort of a big comeback, meant as a big comeback. Big, huge production values, big names involved. And I think that maybe this means that we will not see that sort of huge comeback anytime soon. That doesn't mean that we won't see Silent Hill, but I don't think we're going to see a project of this scale proposed anytime soon. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a sad day that it was canceled, but given the circumstances with Kojima Productions, Kojima, everything like that, I'm not sure what kind of game we would have seen if they've pushed on either. So,
but okay, that's a nice little extra talk there. But
yes, bonus.
We want to talk about a rumor here. So more signs that Gears of War will be coming in HD. Yeah.
So there's been a lot of talk about this, and there was leaked footage on YouTube that apparently Microsoft had gotten pulled, and they've actually even banned some Xbox Live users because apparently there was some sort of alpha test going on via some sort of testing agency for HD Gears of War. This is sort of all of alleged, but there's just so many signs now pointing towards this being the case. So it's hard to ignore. What can you say? Expected to be announced at E3, and it's the kind of thing where if you're testing it now, I could see this being something like, okay, we announced it at the E3 conference. Here it is, ready for download.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's the case. And of course, then they really want to keep it a secret because the surprise effect of that is pretty nice. But yeah, the original Gears of War, of course, is coming up on 10 years. It's still, I think it was released in 2006. So it kind of makes sense to do an anniversary HD remake right now, especially with the next Gears of War probably still being, probably late 2016 or something like that. So quite a while to go until that releases. So it kind of makes sense to keep the franchise, talked about and stuff. So makes sense to me. And of course, so many rumors, so much talk.
Yeah, I mean, it should be said. It should be said, even though we did show showed the video here for shortly. I mean, it could be the PC version with a nice looking watermark on it, and then they put the Kinect in front of the TV, you know.
Yeah.
So it's still
Absolutely.
a rumor.
I mean, it could be faked. Could be faked, but it's just the fact that that later there's also reports of people being banned for misuse of Xbox Live terms of use over this is sort of like, yeah, I don't know.
A smarter move by Microsoft would have been to wait to ban them until, you know, after.
Yeah, or like, you know, why not do the testing inside of a controlled environment and not let people do it?
I mean, I kind of like that they actually bring out a test out into the real world, because we have had a lot of multiplayer games.
But
you know,
it's not truly the real world anyway, because it's been on sort of separate servers and everything like that. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. But regardless of that,
I mean, it also depends on if it's actual servers or if it's going to be peer-to-peer. But
yeah, it's. But you know, if you do it like that, you have to expect leaks. That's you're not gonna get people sitting at their home not filming if they have an unannounced game playing on their system, regardless of the NDAs you make them sign. So.
But yeah, moving on.
Yeah. So, are you excited about Lego Dimensions?
I could be. I haven't. Yeah. I need to hear pricing. I need to hear if it's.
Well, the pricing is going to be steep, but so is pretty much everything that has to do with sort of toy video games, etc. It's expensive.
I also need to know if you know, you get the portal. Is that actually something that you Lego together, and you know, the figures and stuff? Do you actually get to Lego and then put it into that? That's what I want. I wanted to do like a 3D scan, bring it into the game world. You know, let's do this shit.
Yeah.
But that's not gonna happen.
I mean, it's a pretty sweet concept. Like it's a marriage between two great things. I mean, the TT Games Lego titles are awesome. Like they've been great for many years. Maybe not sort of 10 out of 10 material, but always delivers good entertainment. And of course, Lego is a toy, so you know to go from there to sort of a toy game hybrid, it's not a far stretch. And of course, one of the great things about Lego is the fact that it mixes a lot of different universes, a lot of different things, all with that sort of one Lego, sort of the Lego overarching Lego.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at all the franchises that they've made Lego games out of already, if they pull all that into one, that could be very interesting.
But the interesting thing here is what they've shown, and this is something that leaked in a PDF document, is that it's not stuff that they've actually done. It's other things. It's Portal 2. It's Doctor Who. It's Jurassic World, of course, something that they have done. Scooby-Doo, something they haven't done. There's of course Lego's own Ninja Go series, and Back to the Future, The Simpsons, which I'm just what they should have done a Lego Simpsons game a long time ago. But nevertheless, it's like it seems like this Dimension thing has a lot of different sets lined up for it. We should say this is not announced officially, so even if they're thinking about this, maybe it's not official. Maybe it's not going to happen in the real at the end of the day. But
as with everything that's not, everything that's not, you know, an official release, this is a PDF document captured by another a third party and then put out. So again, it could be fake, but it looks legit.
Yeah. But also the interesting thing about this is that the franchises they use, it speaks to me as a 35-year-old. It doesn't seem like it's that catered towards, you know, 10-year-olds or 12-year-olds or 8-year-olds as I would expect something like this to be. I mean, Doctor Who, maybe that spans generation. Scooby-Doo, is that a big thing now? I don't know. Back to the Future.
I mean, they tried to reboot the Scooby-Doo animated series.
They've done that a few times.
They missed the mark on that one.
That's the computer animated computer. Oh yeah, that's pretty horrible.
I mean, then we have Jurassic World. And of course, Ninjago.
Well, of course, that's
Yeah,
a
but
Lego.
Back to the Future
I mean,
and The
I
Simpsons
would
would
expect
be
them.
pretty interesting indeed.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect them to bring out all the Lego universes that they have that are
Yeah.
current, because it would just be crazy not to do it, of course. But yeah, I'm really excited to learn more about this and see where they're going with it and how they'll handle it. We're gonna have a lot of these toy platform games things, but yeah, the best one will survive, I guess.
Yeah, actually, we're being asked here in the chat here, what is Lego Dimensions? Maybe very quickly recap exactly what it is.
Yeah. So it's pretty much your sort of Skylanders, Disney Infinity sort of setup here, where you got a video game, and you got the toys, which are Lego figures, and then you got a portal thing where you sort of introduce these figurines to the game, and then there's going to be different well, I guess dimensions in this game, where there's going to be different themes, and some of these themes then have been revealed or sort of leaked as these franchises that we're talking about, Simpsons and Back to the Future and Doctor Who and Ninja Go, etc., etc. So all of these will, I'm not sure. Have they announced what the starter set for that is going to be?
No, but it makes sense, especially from looking at the trailer, that it's going to be the figures from the movie. I would think so.
Yeah. So I mean, the starter set probably going to be Lego the movie then. Yeah. And I'm also sure that, it's one of those things where maybe they're not gonna try cannibalize their already successful Lego Batman and etc. etc. But yeah, well, I mean, they have actually revealed Batman, so I guess we're gonna see that. But yeah, and Lord of the Rings and things like that. So we're probably gonna see what you said, like from a movie and some of those things. But we're also gonna see these separate sets that are gonna add a lot of cool things that may not be part of Lego as of yet. So very interesting concept. And you talked about the price. I think it's been mentioned that the starter pack is going to be around 99 euros. So you better put it on top of your Christmas list. Yeah, but that is the drawback of any of these Lego any of these toy video game hybrids, is that you're gonna have to pay a little bit extra, and this one is a little bit more expensive than a lot of the others. But keep in mind that Lego is pretty expensive. It's pretty fucking expensive. Like if you want the toys, if you collect the toys, that is, it's a premium toy. Let's put it at that. It's so it's not surprising that they put a pretty steep price on that one. I'm gonna see if there's any mention.
But I mean, I'm envisioning we're gonna be seeing somebody that's going to build a whole enclosure around their portal, and it's gonna be like a whole playhouse type of thing.
Yeah. So the starter pack that includes the game, Batman, Gandalf, and Wildstyle, the toy pad, Lego Batmobile, and Lego bricks to build the gateway with, will be priced at thereabouts £90, 99 euro level.
And of course, it's coming to all the platforms.
Yes, it is coming to Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS4, PS3, and Wii U. Not heard anything about a PC version, which sounds a little bit strange, but yeah, I guess consoles are the main objective here. So, but yeah, it's a pretty cool concept, and we should have talked about it before if we haven't.
Yeah,
so
I know. We talked about it when it was announced. It was just people weren't clear on it in the chat.
Well, everyone doesn't watch every single minute of
How
GR Live.
Dare you?
Yes, it's shocking, appalling.
But yeah, moving on. We don't have a lot of time left.
We have 10 minutes and we have two stories, so it's perfect. Perfect timing. I keep things in line. So next story is the fact that Divinity Original Sin is heading to Xbox One and PS4 enhanced edition. That we've had a few enhanced editions, some definitive editions, and things like that lately. So, of course, it's critically acclaimed RPG, old school RPG from Larian Studios, and the new experience, of course, controller support, local co-op, and split screen, fully voiced characters, and a totally reworked story with a brand new ending. Sounds like they've done a lot of work on the game. They've also got a publisher lined up, Focus Home Interactive, and let's see. Oh, more info will be shared during E3. Trying to find out if there's a release date here.
There wasn't one at the end of the trailer.
No, so I think, well, actually, they're saying that it's going to be out at the end of 2015, so expect it late this year. But yeah, nice to see. I mean, I remember talking to Larian Studios about this game, and they sort of burnt themselves a little bit doing Divinity 2 on, I think it came out on PC and Xbox 360, and they had to sort of adapt the game to be a console game, and they had to make sort of compromises with what they wanted to make, which is, of course, a computer RPG. So interesting to see them going to console after sort of having a lot of success with Original Sin as a PC game. You know, maybe they're doing it in the right order now.
Yeah, they're making the PC one. I guess, you know, when a distributor comes on knocking and says, hey, you want to bring it on? You go for it.
I think so, and I also think like it's probably a case of, as with Wasteland 2, you know, you've had some success, the engine supports it, you're gonna make enhancements to your PC versions anyway, because you want to keep supporting that, and then maybe it's sort of a good fit to do both. And I think it's probably a nice situation for the studio as well to have a publisher on board for this project, and then, you know, maybe the next project they're gonna go Kickstarter for a PC game again, but they'll have sort of a, maybe it's a nice situation for the studio to have this project in parallel with that. I don't know. I'm just speculating here, but I expect to hear something about a new game from Larian as well. So maybe we'll hear that soon enough.
I mean, it sounds like a nice way to, you know, keep the whole studio working on something. When they have the art department doing pre-production on a new project, they have all the tech guys converting to console.
Yeah.
But
I don't know what engine, if it's an engine of their own or
Unity. Not 100%, but yeah.
Yeah, and of course, then it makes a lot of sense to port it because
lot of built-in support there.
Support. Yes. And probably if it's Unity, now I'm not 100% sure that it is. Maybe we should check that out. But if it is Unity, then they probably used Unity 4 for the game, and of course it makes sense to port it to Unity 5. Then, let's see if I can find it here. Doesn't say.
No, it's their own in-house engine. Sorry about that.
In-house engine. All right. So
it's their own in-house engine that they're using for this, and they're also using it for Dragon Commander. So, oops.
Well, sorry, we went astray there, but nevertheless, it's probably good research and development then for the engine team to port it over to console as well. We should say that it's regardless of what engine you use, given the architecture of PS4 and Xbox One, it is easier than what it used to be to port it over from PC to the new consoles. So maybe it's yeah.
Rodon1 in the chat is asking, is Divinity an old game? It's an old series, but Divinity Original Sin came out last year, June 29th, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's standing right in front of me. Good memory.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Yeah. Brilliant Wikipedia.
No. Gamereactor information.
Yeah, so the original Divine Divinity came out in 2002, so the series has quite a lot of age on it, but the last game came out last year.
Yeah,
so
after going through
that's it.
Kickstarter and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was in development for a while, and then it had a Kickstarter to sort of help it
Yeah, get a slight
achieve,
infusion of funds. And
yeah, yes,
yeah.
and it was very successful on Kickstarter.
Yeah,
I
and
should
always
say.
fun to talk to those guys. We've talked to them at E3 and at Gamescom, and
Yes,
oh,
very
yeah.
friendly Dutch studio, I think it is. So good people.
But yeah, next up,
final story of the day, and this is a negative story with a twist, if you will. So Telltale's John Stauffer has gone on Twitter to say that Walking Dead Season 3 will not start in 2015.
No!
No, it won't start there. And but Telltale will be announcing something major in 2015.
Yay!
And sort of pointing towards maybe a reveal at E3.
Possibly.
Of course, don't expect it to be the Marvel Corporation, because that's targeted for 2017.
Yeah, but also the way that he words it, Walking Dead fans are still getting something major in 2015. So it's not, oh, Telltale will be doing something. It's like it will be Walking Dead related in some way.
I think they're going to release an extra episode for Season 2, just like they did for Season 1. It makes sense.
Yeah, to tie in to Season 3.
Yeah, sort of tease it. And also, like, realistically, we're not getting Season 3 until maybe, you know, pretty far into 2016. I would expect it to be, maybe even late 2016. So releasing something in the second half of 2015 just to keep it alive, just to keep things cooking, makes a lot of sense. But yeah, too bad, because you know, that's the thing with like seasons and stuff. You want them to be regular. You want them to come out one after another. But we're gonna have to wait a little longer for the next season of Walking Dead. But yeah.
Yeah, being asked in the chat if I would recommend The Walking Dead to someone who hasn't played a Telltale game. Yeah, that's easy.
Yes, I would say like Telltale games, their sort of style of games is something you can recommend to someone who doesn't play games.
Yeah, and also to people that do play games, but are kind of more focused on story. If it's like hardcore gameplay that you're after, might not be for you. But in terms of story.
But I mean, even if you are sort of a Twitch player, even if you are sort of playing Call of Duty a lot of time, this is something you can play that's a little bit different, that you can just relax. And
yeah, absolutely,
like
absolutely. I'm just saying it's not in your you know, exact wheelhouse, but you might still really enjoy it.
But I think like for me, this is the kind of game, like if you like the setting, the story of it, or like the franchise, whatever they're covering, anyone can pretty much play a Telltale game, as long as they're interested in the subject matter, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've made enough advertising for Telltale games.
I think so.
That's enough.
And I think that covers us for news. Our hour is up, and it's time to play some Destiny. Thank you for joining, Bengt. Always a pleasure. Indeed. See you again next week. What we'll do now is we're going to cut to graphics for a little bit, because we need to cut up the recordings and stuff like that. But I will be back in a minute's time, and I will be playing Destiny on the PS4. If you want to join at Gamereactor Live on PSN, and let's get it on. So, see you in a minute.